learning what he or she is all about and what they have to offer if elected. Now, here are your hosts, Don Elwell and Dan Andrews.
Good morning, everybody. D&D Live with you with the Meet the Candidates series. Mr. Andrews, how you doing this morning?
I'm great.
Yeah.
Thanks for having me, Don.
Well, I thought it'd be nice to have you. And I see you brought the sheriff with you.
He brought me.
Yeah, he brought you.
we got to do something about this guy.
Anyway, welcome, Sheriff Paul Blackman. How are you, sir?
I'm doing good. Thank you for the opportunity to be here this morning.
No, we appreciate you being here. Obviously, Sheriff Blackman running for re-election as Sheriff of Highlands County. He's been in for 2 terms, I believe.
Yes, sir.
This, if re-elected, would be your 3rd term coming in. And it's a fairly simple format for our interviews. I know we got a debate scheduled with you in a little bit, but in the future, we will do, for the interview, we'll let you start off with just kind of an introduction for all those folks that don't know a whole lot about you and how you got here and some of your qualifications for the position.
Sure. So again, thank you for the opportunity to be here and to speak on behalf of my campaign. I am Paul Blackman. I've had the honor of serving the citizens of Highlands County as their sheriff for the last 7.5 years. Prior to that, I worked at the sheriff's office. I've been there for a total of 31 years. Had the pleasure and great opportunity to serve as a deputy sheriff, a K-9 handler, a detective, a patrol sergeant, a lieutenant in road patrol, as well as a captain over road patrol and captain over specialized services, which is accreditation and evidence and stuff of that nature. And then my last few years as a captain before I was elected, had the opportunity to serve as the captain within the detention facility. And then obviously I was elected in 2016 and have been serving that role as a sheriff since.
Very good.
Okay, so let's just dive in.
All right, let's go.
All right. So Sheriff Blackman, why don't you let's start with something positive.
Okay.
What was your proudest achievement while being in the office over this past 2 terms?
We have accomplished a lot since 2017 when I took office. A lot of different programs we've initiated, one of those being the Cops Adapt program, which is a unit that we applied for grants, federal grants for, where we had the opportunity to put deputies in what we call our partnership communities. Those are some high crime areas within our county, and so we created that program. We were able and given the opportunity to take over animal services or animal control from the county. We kind of rebranded that animal services, and we have a Heals Together Academy through that, which we take dogs from animal services, take them to the prison. The inmates teach them adoptable skills, I guess would be the correct term, how to sit, stay, the house break them, kennel break them,
okay.
Teach them manners, how to get along with other animals, and then we adopt them. Once they break out of the prison, we get them adopted, and that has been a great program. Within the detention facility, we created a goals program, which is a re-entry program. Those folks that have been detained and sentenced to county time, while they're there, they're not just laying on a cot and waiting to get out. We teach them life skills, and we have a liaison with the community who will go out and try to find them a job, so that the day that they get out, they have a foot up on and trying to be and become a successful citizen within our county. So those are just a few of the programs that we've been able to accomplish that I'm very, very proud of. Here recently, we started our real-time crime center, which is really, really amazing. Some of the technologies that we have available to us that allow us to serve our citizens even better. One of the probably the most popular things was our body-worn camera program that we brought in. We have received a massive amount of positive feedback on that. So from both deputies and citizens that we're serving. So those are just a few things that we're very excited about, and that I'm proud that we were able to do that under my watch.
Yeah, it's amazing that you've had, in looking back in just 8 years, to have that many initiatives, I guess, put together. So certainly appreciate that. Now, so why do you, of course, feel that in this particular race, why do you feel that you're the best candidate for the position?
So good question, and thank you for that. I really believe experience matters. There's no substitute that can be gotten anywhere else other than wearing the boots of a sheriff. And I say that looking back since 2017, the different things that we experience, whether it be a ransomware attack, it be COVID-19, it be name the hurricanes. It does, Irma, Ian,
sure.
Being able to experience that. But not only those different events that we've kind of been, I think, been successful in navigating through and learning from that experience. But as the sheriff, I get the opportunity twice a year, every single year, to go to sheriff conferences and different trainings that the sheriffs put on around the state. And we have executive sessions where we sit with the other 66 sheriffs, and we discuss the best practices. We discuss what's working, what's not working, and how we can implement those back at our own organization. And you just don't get that experience any other place. So I think that's what has made me the best candidate for the position that I'm seeking.
And was it at some of those at those conferences that maybe some of those initiatives came about, or were those something those originate somewhere else?
So some of them are native, and some of them I've picked up at other places. Real-Time Crime Center, in full transparency, I picked that up from other agencies. Actually, Sheriff Judd had implemented one in the county just north of us, and I was listening to him talk about it, and I said, man, that's really something we'd like to bring here. The Goals program was something that was grown right here. That was a seed that we planted, and we did that. The Cops Adapt Unit was also a seed that we planted and grew, and we're reaping fruits from that as we speak. I mean, so there's a mixture.
Yeah, no, very good. We're talking, of course, with Sheriff Paul Blackman running for re-election to his third term as Sheriff of Highlands County. And we've got a lot more questions. Dan's got like 100, I think, actually, more questions just himself here.
Looking for that get out of jail free card.
Yeah, okay, well, all right, good deal. I need that for my family. Anyway, as, of course, Meet the Candidates continues. Don Elwell and Dan Andrews, D&D Live with the Meet the Candidates series. This week's special guest, Sheriff Paul Blackman, running, of course, for sheriff. Wow, what a shocker. Anyway, to be reelected to his third term. And Dan, go ahead and pick from your list of 100 questions of something to ask Sheriff Blackman.
So, Sheriff Blackman, let's talk a little bit about COVID and how that changed your operational aspects, or if it changed your operational aspects, and maybe the hangover that we still have from COVID. You know, I hear there's a backlog of cases and things like that. So why don't you just tell us a little bit about navigating the waters of COVID?
So in late 2020, early 2021, when COVID came about, it was something that not only the Highlands County Sheriff's Office, but law enforcement offices and organizations across the nation had to deal with. It was a little bit special from a sheriff's standpoint in that most sheriffs have the responsibility of the detention facility within their county, and that's could be 400, 500, 600 additional souls that you're responsible for and have to look after. Also, as we were facing COVID, we had to experience and go through what changes we were going to make, how our deputies responded to calls first, and then how we were going to handle bringing detainees in and out of the detention facility. As you know, a lot of places just shut down. Law enforcement organizations did not have that luxury of just shutting down and going home. We were essential workers, and we had to come to work every day.
Did you see an increase in crime during that period of time, or a decrease?
Well, I would say an increase in crime, not necessarily all aspects of crime, but specifically domestic violence types of cases. Mm-hmm. You know, people are wondering how are they going to make their house payment and stuff like that. So that kind of gets people on edge, and when they're at home all day and worrying about that, tensions rise. So right. We did see an uptick in those types of crimes that deputies have to respond to. But the biggest challenge that we faced was bringing folks and quarantining folks inside the detention facility. So whereas in the past you would just bring someone in who was arrested, you would give your charging document to the booking officer and go on about your business. Now you basically had to try to desanitize them before they came in. You had to ask a series of health questions so that we could not only protect them but protect other inmates from that. So something that was really an experience that we'll never forget, and we learned, have a lot of policy changes as a result of that. But your part of your one question was that are we still seeing effects from that? And absolutely we are. The detention facility is overcrowded, and it's a direct result of still trying to play catch up from COVID-19 because courthouses shut down, so you don't get plea deals, you don't get cases criminally prosecuted. So we are slowly but surely catching up from that.
Okay.
So, talking, of course, with Sheriff Paul Blackman running for re-election. Sheriff, you had mentioned earlier that one of your tenets, basic tenets of your campaign, and something I think I saw one of your a mail piece that came to me recently, is that experience matters,
Yes.
and that you're going off of experience. And you've worked for the sheriff's department in different capacities for quite a long time. However, not obviously back in 2016, I guess it'd be, not as sheriff. It was when you first came in as sheriff. So, what has been the toughest thing for you to learn? Or one or two things that you think that was the toughest thing since you got into sheriff, that you were like, oh yeah, I'm not as familiar with this aspect. I've got it took a little bit of longer time period for you to kind of ramp yourself up.
So, great question, and something that I learned very, very quick is now. I say that I had the awesome opportunity to work for two awesome sheriffs, Sheriff Godwin and Sheriff Benton, and they gave me the ability to learn the organization, and I'll be forever indebted to both of them for that opportunity. But as a captain, traveling and experiencing different things around the organization, you're still in your sandbox. And when I was elected in 2016 and took office in 2017, I had to start to understand the organization globally. I have to look at everything and how this particular division and decisions that are made there will affect the other divisions, and we have to take that into consideration. And only someone who has had the opportunity to see the organization as a whole will understand that from a standpoint of, I just can't give deputies raises. It's not fair for me to give the 180 deputies that we have and not the 100 detention deputies we have, or the other the other 100 civilians have. Right? So when you talk about giving raises, you have to do it fairly and across the board, and knowing that that's a big price tag.
Yeah, I would think that ripple effect would be something new for sure that you had to consider.
So let's continue on that, and let's talk about your competitor brought up the question about how he felt that the deputy salaries were below where they needed to be, and he had some suggestions as to how he thought that should happen to change that. But why don't we talk a little bit about what are the numbers, and are we below our surrounding counties, and what steps we can take to change that?
I think one of the numbers that we heard was $5,000 to $8,000 below for a starting deputy.
That's right.
So oftentimes, a lot of people, when they start comparing salaries, organizational salaries, whether it be the sheriff's office in Highlands County to Polk County to Hardee County to other agencies around the state, what fails to happen a lot of times, and I don't know if my competitor this was his issue with that or not, but they fail to compare apples to apples. So and I'm just going to use us in Polk County for example. So Polk County has a larger starting pay than we have, by about $5,000 if that number is still true today. However, there is no free insurance plan in Polk County. My son is a detective up there. He does not have a free plan. Here in Highlands County, we offer a free plan. So if you do the math on that, is a deputy at the end of the day taking home more money here as compared to Polk County? Again, you have to compare apples to apples. And in some of the other organizations, they might pay, let's just say, let's use a county over on the coast somewhere. Their starting pay might be $50,000. Our starting pay is $47,000. But that deputy in 5 years might still be making $50,000. A deputy in Highlands County, because we have a pretty aggressive 10-year step program, each year they're going to make more money. So at the end of their career, they're making a lot more money than the deputy that started at $50,000 and stayed at $50,000 for 10, 15 years. So I don't think that there's a fair comparison going on. There's apples to apples or oranges to oranges.
So in your recruiting, who are you going to, and how are you going about recruiting new deputies to the Highlands County Sheriff's?
So First and foremost, we have a big recruiting effort going on. We do have some vacancies. Ever since the George Floyd issue up in Minnesota, there's been a defund the police moment. Nobody wants to get in law enforcement. There seems like there's a lot less people that want to get in law enforcement. So we recognize that. We have, even though we have some vacancies, some of those vacancies were created as a result of Marjorie Stoneman Douglas Act, where we had to take the deputies that we have and put one in every single school. the result of some annexation in Avon Park, which is the city of Avon Park. We do the law enforcement services for them, so they wanted additional law enforcement officers, so we had to take the ones we had, put them in there, and try to fill those vacancies. Not that, although we do have people that retire and we have regular attrition, we did notice that there were some vacancies coming, and we needed to try to handle that as best we can. First and foremost, when I started in 2016 as a sheriff, our salary was around $32,000
for a starting
deputy with no experience. Today, a starting deputy with no experience is a little over $47,000, which doesn't include a signing bonus and annual leave and as well as holiday pay. So there's some things that we've done to entice folks.
Now is that no experienced deputy? Where are you getting them from? They're coming out of the academy, or how does that work?
Both. So we will hire straight out of the academy, whether it's South Florida State College, their police academy. Polk County has a really good academy that we'll hire out of there. We will actually hire folks that want a law enforcement career. We will hire them and send them through the academy. We'll
sponsor them, and then you. So on that scenario, do you have it like an employment contract to where
we do.
They have to give back 3 or 5 years of
Yep,
service?
They generally have to commit to us for 2 years.
Okay.
And we will pay for their academy, and we will give them a stipend, a monthly stipend while they're going through the academy. And then furthermore than that, we also have a very aggressive and very proud of an Explorer program in the high schools where young, 10th, 11th, 12th graders who think they want a career in law enforcement can get in the Explorer program. We'll teach them the ins and outs of the career. We'll send them around the state to compete against other Explorer programs, and we've hired several folks that they decide college is not for them.
Oh, really? They come through the Explorer program?
Come through the Explorer. We hire them right on board, and there's several different places within the organization. Now we can't put them on the road until they're 21, but they can be a detention deputy at 18 as long as they have a high school education, and they can start that high risk retirement and going on. And plus, we will do a tuition reimbursement. We have a tuition reimbursement program. So if they can't afford college, which we all know is very expensive, they can come on board with us. A lot of your degrees are online, and while they're taking their online classes, we'll pay for their tuition and get a college degree. That has worked in our benefit, and it has worked against us. We pay for their education, and then they go off to bigger, better things. Which is perfectly fine, as long as they're working with us and being a good worker while they're here. We have no problem with that.
And Sheriff, one of the things that and I have a little bit of knowledge about is obviously the jail. You mentioned running the jail, and I think even recently during the town hall meeting we talked a little bit about the capacity of the jail versus what your current population is. If you would just kind of touch a little bit on the jail situation right now and what's coming down the pike and what that's going to elevate you to, and how you've already almost filled it up already. Go right ahead.
So through some really great work by the county commission, they've allowed us to.
All right, knock it off.
Okay, didn't work, did it? I thought I could sneak that in there. So we do have if the classification on our inmates works absolutely perfect, meaning I cannot put a inmate who's in there for murder with someone who's in there for a petty theft. I cannot house those two folks together. And we call that a classification. If the classification works out perfect for our inmates, we can hold about 480 inmates at the detention center. Currently, we're at about 530. As recently as a month ago, we were in the 560s, 570s. So that's an overcrowding issue, and we have to see what we can do about that. Oddly enough, my opponent says he will just let them out, but I'm here to tell you that I won't do that. And catch and release only works in fishing; it doesn't work in keeping our streets safe. But nonetheless, we've got a 100-bed expansion coming, which will greatly help us. But the numbers I just told you.
Where's that expansion going?
It's right behind the current facility.
Okay.
If you're familiar with the detention facility downtown, it would be on the northeast side of the current structure.
I think there were some negotiations with the city, right?
Yes,
for
absolutely.
Zoning changes.
Yep,
and,
we had there's a street closure.
That's
so
what it was.
There's a
That's
street
what
that
it
comes.
was.
Leaf, I think.
Yep, that comes in right behind the Sallyport area. We had to work through that, and the city has been very graceful and allowed us to do that. Our plan is, once that 100-bed expansion is, we have about 100 female inmates. So our plan is to move them across the street to separate the men and the women. Although they're separated currently, that would be an even greater separation, which would work out for us immensely. But as you can see, the numbers, if the numbers stay the way they are, as soon as we open up, we're getting pretty full already.
You're still almost a full capacity, or pretty close to it.
Pretty close to it.
So how are you getting around that whole classification issue, or working, I guess, as best you can with it right now, being in an overcrowding status?
So normally we have some what we call open dorms, and in those open dorms are bunks. If the bunks get full in a particular dorm, let's say if we have 80 inmates in a particular open dorm, and that it fills up, we have access to what we call a boat, which is a plastic bunk that will be put on the floor, and we space them out properly. Per accreditation standards, we have to put them a certain feet apart from each other. We have the room to do that, so that's currently what we're doing.
Okay, very good. Dan, we've got a bunch, or quite a few anyway, listener questions that have been submitted, and so we need to attack a few of those. And by the way, if you have any questions that you would like to text in, you may do so. We're not taking phone calls, obviously, as we've not done for any of the interviews, but you can certainly text in any questions you might have for Sheriff Blackman. I've received a couple already at 863-381-5622. Again, 863-381-5622. Tall, ugly operators are standing by. Don Elwell, Dan Andrews, D&D Live, Meet the Candidates interview series. And of course, today we are meeting with Sheriff Paul Blackman, running for re-election. We've received, Sheriff Blackman, I don't know, a handful, I guess, of kind of listener-sent questions. And Dan, why don't you go ahead and take the first one?
Sure. So one of the questions we received was, in 2016, you ran on a couple commitments, or a couple goals, and so I thought I would just hit you with a couple of those goals, and you can tell us how you feel that you've accomplished them. So the first one was, one of your goals was to eradicate all street-level drug activity by cracking down on dealers and users.
Okay, so good question, and absolutely, I did state that in 2016 as I was running for office. When I was able to take office in 2017, we immediately implemented some programs, making sure that our drug, our special operations division was back activated, which it was
inactive.
It was inactive
Okay.
in prior to 2016, and we not only did that, but we created a TAC unit, which is a anti-crime unit, and we implemented those in some of our high crime areas where we had open drug markets and stuff like that. So we attacked that, and over the years we've had operations such as Operation Triple Play, which netted 70 plus drug dealer arrests. Operation Dry Ice, which was 25 different arrests, and then Operation Dealer Fold, which in Dealer Fold we actually targeted just the dealers who were selling, and then in that one we made a little over 30 arrests. So we've tried to put a dent in it. It seems like sometimes we're fighting a losing battle. It seems like for every dope dealer that you get off the streets, 2 more take his spot. So,
Okay.
But we're hard at it.
All right, and the other campaign commitment was to take a proactive role to ensure our vital agricultural industry is protected against theft.
So yes, absolutely. When the economic times get hard, people tend to take stuff that's not theirs, and some of our biggest victims are our landowners, whether they be Grove folks, Caladium folks, people who have cow-calf operations, and just because they have so much property and there's not a lot there to protect. I mean, not a lot there resources-wise to protect them. We established a an ag program, or revitalized our ag program, where I had 2 detectives and 3 deputies that their responsibility was agriculture, and they have done a really, really good job at making contact with our ag folks, making sure that we have contact with them, and if they need anything, all they have to do is call and ask.
Okay. And then the third one is protect our children by utilizing cutting-edge technology to identify, pursue, and arrest all sex offender violators in Highlands County.
So good one, and something that is very, very important to me. We have a special victims unit. I did not create the special victims unit. I don't want to take credit for that's not mine, but we kept it going, and we have a very, very proactive group that works out there, and they have done operations just like we have operations that target drug dealers and drug users. We have operations that target sex offenders and sexual predators, and making sure that they're following the rules and doing what they're supposed to. And I get a lot of complaints from sex offenders and sex predators that say we're doing it wrong, but yeah, don't follow the rules that have been put in place, and you won't have any problems. But sometimes they tend to have a hard time following.
Well, and I get the pop-ups on the app. I'm sure you do too, Don. All the time, we'll change the address and stuff like that. It seems like that's constant. That's
part of our transparency program, and just making sure that our citizens know where they're at,
right,
where they're supposed to be at, what their obligations are, and that's just something that we are proud to do, and keeping our kids safe.
Okay. And so the last one from the 2016 campaign commitments. Protect our seniors from becoming victims of fraud and abuse at the hands of unscrupulous criminals.
So one of our biggest complaints over the years, not just this year, but over the years, have been fraud type, scam type complaints. Those criminals tend to target our elderly community. We have made several different programs that we put forth in some of our retired neighborhoods, I guess retirement communities, I guess is the proper way to say it. And then we constantly put programs together and let them know what the latest scam is. Scott from our PIO at the sheriff's office daily puts out reminders. Hey, look, this is the hottest scam going, or this is the newest scam going. And we have a lot of traction with our app, which is a free download, by the way, and anybody can download that app, and we will put the newest and latest scam on there and do a push alert so people know, hey, look, don't fall for this. So that's kind of what we do to try to keep our citizens, especially our elderly citizens, as safe as possible.
We need to tell Scott to get on the one for the group that's calling and claiming that your power is being cut off that day. We got hit at the church. Our church got hit by that, and our finance manager called me crying. She's like, I know I paid it. And so our pastor David, he got on the phone with her and said, listen, call the 800 number that is associated with Duke Energy and talk to them directly.
Yeah, absolutely.
And but I mean, they were almost had her ready to go try to figure out, I'm a signer, so she wanted me to know if I would sign for a cashier's check.
Yep.
And it looks like, actually scrolling through the app, there might be some notifications out there about it. But anyways,
that's very, very important, and they are. AI is going to be a serious problem, and it is really, and they can imitate people's voices. You know, they call people and say that I'm Sheriff Paul Blackman, and I'm here to arrest you if you don't make this particular payment. Go get green cards or go get gift cards and transform into Bitcoin and make. We don't do that at the sheriff's office. We come knock at your door if you got a warrant.
That's right.
We don't call you.
Sometimes we don't give you a heads up.
Yeah. Sometimes we don't even knock on the door. We just knock it over. There you go. So good job, Dan, bringing out the slides from 2016. That was great.
From the archives.
Exactly. No, we appreciate.
Had to dust them off.
No. That was good. That was good. And I think the.
In all transparency, they were sent to me.
It used to be. The saying, I think, is it's trust but verify. It needs to go back to verify then trust.
Yes,
I mean, it's almost that with the
with the scam stuff.
AI. Yeah, exactly. All right. So one of the questions that I received, Sheriff, was in regards to ATV riders, four-wheelers, and having just certain areas are just getting taken over, if you will, by illegal, basically, folks going on property that doesn't belong to them and running their four-wheelers. There's not really there's not a facility or a park here in Highlands County, but they're using the four-wheelers all over the place. In particular, areas like Avon Park Lakes and such areas like that. So, do you have any plans to combat that, or what can you tell us about efforts in that regard?
Sure. Well, I can tell you what we've done in the past, and we do have several areas. One would be Avon Park Lakes, Avon Park Estates, like you mentioned. Orange Blossom Estates is a big one for us. Leisure Lakes area, and then Placid Lakes. All are areas that we have constant complaints about ATVs, not only on other people's property but on the roadways, which is certainly a no-no and against Florida state statute. We have put together details where we send deputies in those areas, and it seems like it's we chase them out of one area and chase them into another area, and we're constantly doing that. But we're not certainly giving up on it. We'll continue to do that if I'm given the opportunity to serve another term. We will stay aggressive on that. Just know that most of those are details, they're overtime details, and when you start running those every weekend, it becomes a budgetary issue. And we certainly, our deputies that are working the street will try to pull those folks over, but oftentimes they will wave at you with a particular finger and keep going and not stop. I don't encourage our deputies to chase when it comes to someone riding a four-wheeler. The last thing we want to do is be chasing a 13 or a 14-year-old who's on a ATV or a side-by-side, and they're running and looking back and they wreck, and then now we've got a lost life. That's just not worth it. But whoever the person was that asked that question, we will continue to do the best we can and to keep those folks off the roadway.
So, at what point does it become the responsibility of the property owners to limit access to the properties too? I mean, it shouldn't all fall on the sheriff's department, should it?
No, I'm just really quickly. I mean, the sheriff actually can speak for himself, but I think there's a lot of so many absentee owners that's what you're going to be dealing with there. Is that these are folks who don't even know their properties are being used.
That they have no idea, and in their areas, they're large tracts of land that are broken up into lots that at one point were cut up with roadways to be developed and never developed.
Okay.
And it's very, very tough to get all those owners on the same page to fence that property and stuff off.
Got it. Okay, I'm up next. All right, so let's talk about. I'm sorry, I forgot I was next.
That's all right.
But I did get a question about Avon Park and the relationship. And the question was more along the lines of, can you explain how that came about and how you feel that contract is working for the Sheriff's Department and Avon Park and how that relationship exists?
Sure. So the whole relationship between the city of Avon Park and the Highlands County Sheriff's Office came about in 2012 under Sheriff Benton. They were having some issues. The city council were having some issues with the police department and some budgetary issues. And they decided to ask the sheriff, then at that point, Sheriff Benton, to enter into a contract with them, which was accomplished. Obviously, I took over in 2017. We were already handling law enforcement services for the city of Avon Park. We have since I have taken over, they have annexed quite a bit of properties in, and we saw where the deputies that were assigned to the county were spending most of their time within the city, and we didn't think that was fair to the county residents, that we were taking resources away from them. So I approached the city about renegotiating that contract, and there was no issue there. It was a good negotiation. It was give and take on both sides, and we got them some more resources within the city limits, which they needed, and they continued our services up there. I can say that I've seen quite a few city council people come and go, and I've seen some city managers come and go from there. But all the ones I've ever dealt with have always been professional with me and our organization, and always willing to do whatever they possibly could do for the betterment of the citizens that they serve.
So because I don't know, do you run a command center out of Avon Park, or is that?
Yes, we have right off Main Street. We have what we call the North District.
Okay.
And all of our Avon Park cars that would be assigned in those particular zones, they have access to that facility to do paperwork or turn in evidence or any of that kind of stuff.
Okay. Very good.
Well, very good. Of course, we're talking with Sheriff Paul Blackman, seeking re-election for a third term there as Highlands County Sheriff. And Sheriff, we've got a few more questions that are coming in or have come in addition to a couple of fun ones. So we'll get to those too as the D&D Live. I said leave. D&D Leave. D&D Leave.
Okay, fine.
I mixed up the
I'll
Meet the
leave.
Candidates. So D&D Leave. Meet the Candidates series continues with Sheriff Blackman. D&D Live, Meet the Candidate series continues with Sheriff Paul Blackman. Sheriff, once again, thank you for being here. And here is your next question, submitted because they heard us talking a little bit about, I think, some of the inmates and the population of the jail. And they said, gosh, it seems like a lot of inmates for a small county like Highlands County. How does that, I guess, percentage of population, you said about 500 and some odd versus our population of 105,000-ish. How does that compare with other counties? Are we high? Are we low? Is that, or is that kind of in line? What's your history say?
So looking into that, and I've looked into it in the past, just trying to figure out our numbers where they're supposed to be. I'd say they're pretty much average. There is some counties on the coast where their population might be more senior citizens than ours, even though we have a large population of that. So depend upon your age of your population. A lot of our elderly folks aren't out committing crimes. So as long as that's your population, your numbers are obviously going to be down. I think our numbers are relative to the type of population that we serve. I don't think we have a overinflated number of inmates, although I do say we probably have a lot of inmates because my deputies are out there doing a good job, and they're out there making cases, they're out there being proactive, and I'm so very, very appreciative for the job that they do every single day and night, keeping our streets safe.
So one of the things that we've heard is that Polk County and Grady Judd's position and strong stance on a lot of things is pushing crime south to Highlands County. What do you see in that regard? Is that a true statement? And if so, how do we combat that?
Well, I don't think that's a true statement at all. I don't think that someone commits a crime based upon a county line or a municipality. They're not going into the city limits to commit a crime because it's in the city limits. Most of your criminals are doing that based upon an opportunity. So they go into a community looking to car fish or whatever, and they're shaking handles and they're finding an unlocked car. When they went to that car, they didn't care what county it was in. I can tell you that Polk County and Sheriff Judd is a great sheriff, been a great friend of mine and a mentor of mine for ever since I've taken office, and he has always given us everything we've ever asked for, and a lot of things we've not asked for. So I say that he's not pushing criminals down into Highlands County.
What about on the drug and sex trafficking side? I think that was kind of the focal point that they were claiming were being pushed south.
So I believe the statement was made that they are being pushed south because they're tough on crime or something,
yeah.
And that we don't have operations. But I mentioned to you earlier, Operation Dry Ice, Operation Dealer Fold, Operation Triple Play, where we are very, very aggressive in our drug enforcement and trying to keep our streets safe. And they're not coming, they're not sitting at the county line saying, Sheriff Blackman, we're going down there to commit a crime.
Sure. And Sheriff, again, congratulations on those initiatives again that you did over the first two terms, which kind of leads into this question. What are the goals for term number 3 if you're reelected? Do you have one or two or a couple of initiatives there that you say, okay, for these next 4 years, this is what I want to get accomplished if I'm lucky enough to retain office?
Absolutely. So we do have some objectives that we would like to accomplish. Some of them are in the very near future that we would like to see. I think someone going into that office needs to have some sort of plan. But I say that knowing the fact that none of us know what tomorrow brings. just like, hurricanes or COVID-19. You woke up one day, had no idea that you need to be prepared for that. So we are prepared, and we're flexible to do whatever we need to do. But some of the things that we want to accomplish, that I want to see accomplished, is to continue our real-time crime center. That is making such a difference in our community, and I want to keep that going. And when I say keep that going, there's some other technologies that we need to get to put in the real-time crime center. Some some cameras and some systems like Fuchsias that are mapping in our school systems that are going to really keep our kids safe and allow deputies to have real-time information as they're responding to scenes. Another one along those same lines is a program or a technology called Active 911. Really something that I'm very, very interested in, and it has geofencing technology where a deputy who might be riding around in the Sun and Lakes area, if there's a 911 call in Sun and Lakes area, the telecommunicator at the sheriff's office receives a call. It also goes to that deputy in real time. So that deputy who is geofenced in that particular area can hear the call real time, and there's nothing lost in translation. It's going to increase response time, and it's going to make the deputy safer when he gets there, he or she gets there as well.
Probably decrease response time.
I'm sorry, decrease response time. Thank you.
Okay, so and you touched on it a couple times, but let's before we get to the fun questions, let's talk about school resource officers and the relationship with the Highlands County School Board and how that's worked. I know that was kind of a mandate.
Yep.
And so why don't you just touch on that real quick before we get to the fun stuff?
Sure. So. It was a mandate, and we should add it was an unfunded mandate. So Marjory Stoneman Douglas in 2018 happened, which was just horrible. But as a result of that, the Marjory Stoneman Douglas Safety Act came into play, and in that it said that you will either have a law enforcement officer, a guardian, or a security guard on every single school campus within your county. Myself and Dr. Longshore, we sat down and kind of agreed which way do we want to handle this. And at first we saw the immediate need. We were just going to put deputies on every single campus. So we did that, and then there were some other stipulations in there. So if the school had more than 1,000 students, you had to have 2 deputies on that campus. So Avon Park High School, we have 2 deputies. Sebring High School, we have 2 deputies, and then all the other campuses, we either have a safe school deputy, which are assigned to our elementary schools, and then we have deputy sheriffs at every other campus except for the 2 that are within the city limits of Sebring. So we accomplished that.
Were those new hires, or did you move people, take somebody off the road to
both?
Okay,
both. So all the safe school deputies, we kind of came up with a hybrid for taking folks that were either nearing retirement or wanted to retire. The governor at that point said, "Look, I will. If someone retired." Per FRS, they have to stay out a certain amount of time. Mm-hmm. The governor did away with that. You can immediately hire them back. So we had deputies that retired and then wanted to be a safe school deputy. So we put them in the school, and they only work when children are there. So it's kind of a hybrid. It doesn't cost us much, but they still get their insurance paid for, and they're getting summers off, they're getting spring break off, and it's been a very good program for us. So as we moved down through that after 2018. Dr. Longshore also wanted to have the guardians, and as that act, these Marjory Stoneman Douglas Act is written, it's the sheriff's responsibility to make sure those people are trained and ready to go and put within the school. So last several years we've been putting that together. So now not only do we have deputy sheriffs in all schools, we now have guardians in most of the schools as well. So something that is very important to both Dr. Longshore and myself in keeping our kiddos as safe as possible.
The last a real question before Dan gets to the first fun one is position vacancies. How many approximately do you have right now? You mentioned obviously that there's quite a few. You're recruiting heavily or aggressively.
Sure.
How many position vacancies?
So if we're totally full at the Highlands County Sheriff's Office, we have 380 positions at the Sheriff's Office. Now that's across the board. That's sworn positions. That's civilian positions. We have a staff meeting every Wednesday, and that's a topic that comes up at the last staff meeting. I think we had 345 positions filled, so we're about 35 down. And again, those positions are detention and road patrol and in civilian, so in our communication center that we have. So not a great amount of openings in any one position. They're just kind of spread throughout the organization.
And is that number of positions, is that about the right size, too small, too big for our population?
It's about the right size. I would like to. There's some positions I would really like to fill, some supervisory positions, but we kind of hold off on them, knowing that our frontline workers are our most important workers, and I don't want to remove one of them and have a vacancy to fill.
Okay, we're running up on the end of the show here, so two fun questions, and then we'll get to your closing. So, what is your favorite thing for you and your family to do here in Highlands County?
So I should have mentioned this earlier. So I'm married to Melissa, my wife, and we've been married for 32 years. And then we have a son. His name is Garrig, and then we now have a daughter-in-law and a grandchild.
Oh, wow.
So it is an amazing thing to see. You look in your. I never knew what people were talking about when they say they love their grandkids more than they love their kids. But when you look in your grandchild's face and you see your own child in that face, it's an amazing thing. So what do we love to do? We like to hunt. So we're outdoors people. We like to hunt and fish. And Highlands County has some of the best fishing, in my opinion, in the world. We like to quail hunt out at the Avon Park Bombing Range, which is an absolute amazing place for what you pay, and you have access to almost 100,000 acres. You can just go ride around and enjoy. And that's kind of what we love to do the best.
Okay.
Awesome. All right, Sheriff, but we're gonna skip my little fun question that I have right now. If you would, why don't you talk a little bit about how folks, why they should vote for you, and how they can contact you, or where they can see you next.
Sure. So we have I have two more events tonight. One event at Maranatha Village, which I think is just for the community, and then I have another event downtown Sebring, just talking about what my plans are. If they want to reach out to us, we have a Facebook, a Re-elect Paul Blackman for Sheriff Facebook page. They can message us there, and if they want a sign or if they want a presentation, we can certainly get that to them. I have always given my phone number out. I think as the sheriff, I need to be approachable, and that number is area code 863-381-1863. Call me, and I'll try to get to you as soon as we possibly can. It has been an honor to not only serve at the sheriff's office for the last 31 years, but to serve as the Highlands County Sheriff for the last 7.5 years, and it would be an honor to have the support of the citizens that I've had the opportunity to serve, and hopefully they'll think that I've done at least somewhat of a decent job and give me an opportunity for one more term.
Very good. Well, we certainly appreciate you being here and taking the time out to be with us today.